Hey, I'm Scotty T from Your Comedy Minute. I'm joined today by Scott Johnson from whatwasthatlike.com and What Was That Like podcast. Scott, how are you?
I'm doing amazing today. It's a beautiful day here in Florida.
Yeah, it's Monday, and I saw you have a thing about Mondays on one of your, I think it's
A thing
TikTok
about
video.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did do a
I
TikTok
remember
about
that.
that. Yeah, it's kind of one of my pet peeves that people say, "Oh, it's Monday." And
Yeah,
then on Friday they're like, "Hey, wow, thank God it's Friday." It's
I, I
because they hate their job, you
I
know?
watched that whole thing, and you really nailed down how I feel, and especially I think it starts when you're young.
Mhm.
Sunday nights, you have to go to school. And then, when you get older, Sunday, you have to go to work. And man, it's only been, the last 3 or 4 years for me that I finally am, comfortable in my own skin, that I don't care what day of the week it is.
Yeah.
Thank God for each day. But Scott, I didn't mean to take over. Please tell everyone about What Was That Like. I know about it, but I want you to tell the people all about it.
Sure. Yeah, What Was That Like is a podcast that I create and host. And it's basically every episode is a conversation with a regular person who's been through
Yeah,
something extremely unusual.
right.
Like people who have survived a mass shooting
Yeah, I
or
saw
survived
that.
a plane crash or were attacked by an animal like a bear
Yeah.
or a monkey. Or, I've done episodes with I've got over 150 episodes.
Yeah, I
And the
saw
guest
I
just
saw you
comes
have
on.
100. I saw you have 154 episodes, and they
Mhm.
range from, like you said, surviving a mass shooting to giving birth in a car to. I mean, it's amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, and mass shootings. What could be more appropriate on a comedy channel? Your Comedy Minute, right? I mean,
See, Scott, you figured out the secret sauce already. I like people that make me laugh. It.
cool.
I spend my whole now, and you know what? Since you diverted it, we were talking about your podcast. I want
Uh
to
huh.
keep it, but I want people to know that Scott not only has the podcast, but he also has What Was That Like on TikTok, and Scott has 4,366 followers. He does really. He's known. I don't want to steal your glory, but you ride around Florida on a bike that has, what was that like? And it's just amazing what you've done.
Well, the way you phrase that is interesting. I mean, I ride around my neighborhood pretty
Oh,
much.
okay.
I mean, right around Florida, it sounds like I'm pulling a
There you
trailer
go
with
again. There you go again.
7 days of supplies or something. And
No, no.
no,
All right. Look, it's early, man. I got one bloodshot eye open. You're lucky I'm functioning at all. No, but seriously, uh, I'm so taken back by. I think your tagline is "real people in unordinary." What is your
it's
tagline?
real people in unreal situations.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just did, and I'm going to air it this week. A young man who survived a train derailment. His family was on. I was telling, and believe it or not, his name is Scott, like you and I.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, you'll have to keep an eye, and maybe I'll steer him your way. That was one of the questions. How do you find you've done 154 of these? How do you find the people? Do they contact you?
Well, they do now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
When I first started, I was just starting from scratch, and that was
okay,
5 years ago, 5.5 years ago.
okay,
And so when I started out, I thought, okay, I want to do these stories. I want to hear from these people. So I just made a list of people who I wanted to talk to.
okay,
Like somebody who got struck by lightning, or
okay.
a bunch of different things like that. And then I just went searching for news stories and tried to contact those people and have them on the show. Now the audience is big enough that most of my stories come from listeners.
Okay.
People will contact me and say, I've been listening to your show for a long time, and it just occurred to me this thing happened to me. Maybe that would be a good fit for
Right.
your show. And so that's where I get a lot of them now.
Do you have an abundance now of people? Do you have like people waiting to get on?
I have shows recorded now through the end of the year.
Okay.
And I don't think, if you think about, when you look in the news, weird stuff happens every day.
Uh,
And so I don't think I would ever run out of content.
no, I did 100 lives. Now I stopped doing the lives because
Mhm.
I was doing two a week, and the whole premise of those lives were exactly what you're talking about. a shooting at a Sonic drive-through because they didn't get their onion rings, or a guy found his wife. I don't want to get too wife sleeping with a dog, or I mean, just like you say, every week. I was doing it twice a week. I put 100 shows together, and every week I never really had to search too hard for material.
Right.
Especially there in Florida.
Oh yeah, we have the Florida man.
you guys got a line on some stuff down there in Florida.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you. I guess I have a lot of questions. Number one, do you have a favorite episode of the 154?
That's like saying which of all the kids you have, which is your favorite?
I know, but okay, do this because I worked in the music business. I always top 10, top 5. Do you have like a top 5 that you could name off?
There are definitely a few that stand out.
Okay.
I honestly, one of my criteria in deciding if a story is appropriate or a good fit for the show is, are people going to look? You know how if you subscribe to podcasts, you can scroll on your phone.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't. I'm not a podcast guy.
People that live in this century will understand that. Then, when
I have the attention span of right now. I'm eating stuff out of the air, Scott. There's the comedy you're looking for.
You subscribe to podcasts on your phone. And so you can have a bunch of different shows. Each one comes out with new episodes all the time. So as you scroll, you'll see all the new episodes. Well, I want people, when they're scrolling and they see a new episode from me, they're going to see the title, like Dan was mauled by a grizzly bear,
right,
or whatever, and they're going to think, "Oh, okay, I got to hear that story." Hear
what that's about, right?
Yeah.
Your latest one is called Daughters, and I listened to some of it. But that has something to do with your secret room. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
That's an episode swap that I did with a different podcast. So that story actually appeared on another podcast called The Secret Room. Okay. So I'm introducing that podcast to my audience, and he's actually this week or last week played an episode of my show on his podcast. So that's
exactly what I think it has to be about.
Yep,
helping each other out.
Oh yeah, it's podcasting is a very collaborative thing. You would think that other podcasts are competitors, right? Because people are listening to them or they're listening to me. I got to get them all to me, right? But that's not the way it is in podcasting. We help each other, and half of the country still doesn't regularly listen to podcasts. So there's tons and tons of growth potential still.
And I'll be honest with you, Scott. When I said I don't listen to podcasts, is because I'm a little jaded, because that got saturated real quick, and nothing. This isn't towards you, and I think you'll agree with this. A lot of podcasts are two people sitting talking, and after a few minutes, I couldn't care less.
Absolutely,
it's their opinion about something that their opinion matters as much as yours or mine.
Right.
And when you said about doing this with me, and it's a comedy thing, I want it to be funny, but it can be engaging as long as people look at you and I and say, wow, that Scott guy, forget me, but they go, wow, Scott's a very interesting character. And your stories really represent that.
Well, I try to make sure that happens. Yeah. There's the number one rule I go by is never be boring. I don't want somebody to ever listen to one of my episodes and say, okay, I'm done with that, halfway through. It's those type of story that you gotta hear what happens next. And they're all true.
How long, I didn't mean to interrupt. How long does it take you to put one podcast together?
Each episode, considering everything that I do with it, is about 12 hours.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Is that including the editing? Because I noticed I was listening to Daughters, and there were 3 or 4 different voices, and you explained to me that you record them. Now, you don't do the video, you just do the audio.
Right.
But does that mean you interviewed 3 or 4 different people for that one for Daughters?
The Daughters was actually an episode from a different podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But often I do, though. My primary plan is to have one person telling the story. But like the episode before that is called Karen Gave Birth in a Subaru.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah. So in that one, it's her telling the story, But
Yeah.
the person driving the Subaru, trying to get her to the hospital, but they didn't make it, was her father-in-law.
Oh, wow.
And he delivered the baby, or he was right there when the baby was delivered.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
I wanted to hear from him too, to get his perspective. So I have, there's 2 or 3 times during that
Right.
story where I have him come in and say, yeah, I was
Yeah.
really nervous
I
about
was-
this. And
I pulled over and she
yeah,
was, yeah, that's got to be fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
And on that one, I also included the 911 audio from when he called 911, because, they're on the side of the road. She's delivering a baby and they needed an ambulance there.
That's
So we
incredible,
included that
Scott.
audio as well. I like to
That's
do that one.
incredible. That's incredible. Going back, and you'll find that I bounce around a bit, but you said you have several episodes that stick out, because I have another question, a follow-up question for you. Like the Subaru, obviously that's, but I, again, and just scrolling through your titles today, there was probably 50 that I said, wow, I bet you, like being mauled by a bear or surviving a mass shooting. Can you just because I think people, if you name some that if they weren't fans before, if they go over and they say, wow, this was really cool, they may, support you more.
Right. Yeah, I was a lot of times when people discover my show, they will just go and download all of the past episodes and
really?
just binge listen all of them. And the very first episode, I got really lucky when I had my first episode, because I came into contact with a woman in Texas, and her story is she accidentally killed someone. And that was, she was driving in her car, had her 2 little girls with her, nighttime, pulled into an intersection, not seeing the motorcycle that was approaching from her left. And he hit her car and he ended up dying. And so, there's just so much.
Your comedy minute.
Right. Right.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's kind
I'm kidding.
Honestly, a lot of my episodes are kind of dark. They're tragic, but they also, I try to always end each episode, even no matter how tragic it is, to end on a positive note or something good that came out of it.
Right.
And, with a story like that, there's so many things to talk about, the guilt feeling that, that you caused this, the possibility of criminal charges, explaining to your little kids, mommy might have to go to prison, the expense of an attorney. And she was diagnosed with PTSD because of it. But she's now a huge advocate for awareness about distracted driving. Even though she was not distracted driving at the time and there was no charges pressed against her, she didn't even have the radio on. But she said, I used to be one of those people when I hear a story like this and I'd look at it and I'd think immediately, oh, that jerk, they were on their phone, they were probably texting, but you get her perspective and it's, that's not always the way it is.
Yeah.
So it's,
that actually, believe it or not, my uncle actually, with a mirror on his truck, actually, had the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But can you name another one? Because I guess I'll let you name another one or two, but then I have a follow-up question, because I'm real intrigued by the whole process. In other words, from Joe Schmo contacting you, hey, Scott, I got a story, and like you say, the first one you did was that. What was number 2? Do you remember what number 2 was?
The second episode was a young man who was overwhelmed by college student loan debt. And he was a really smart guy. He graduated as an engineer, but he couldn't find a job. And so he decided he was going to do a quick pay on his college loans. He was going to come up with a large sum of cash by traveling to South America and bringing back their high quality cocaine and selling it.
Oh yeah, I saw you've done a couple of cocaine busts on you.
Yeah. So he swallowed 40 balloons before he got on the flight back, and after they landed in Florida, one of them burst in his stomach.
I saw that one coming.
Yeah, he was. He didn't see it coming though.
No, of course not.
He was surprised, and so it ended up that he was in a coma for 10 days. Then he went to prison, and now he's out, and he's one of the ones I'm going to do a follow up with, episode. Yeah,
that's so cool, Scott. Yeah, and that's why. I just met you Saturday via Reddit, and I appreciate you doing this.
I love Reddit.
I will get to my question in a second,
Mhm.
but I'm just so taken back by what you're doing, and that's why I stopped doing the lives, because it was really hard. And you hit it about trying to do comedy, yet I'm making light of someone getting shot, and I stopped doing it because I thought it's just not funny, Scott. There's things that are
Yeah.
not funny.
That's right.
And in other words, I don't do political humor. I don't do racial humor. I obviously don't do any Nazi, I don't do any, I've never done a Hitler joke. It's just not my speed. Now,
Right.
I do a lot of other edgy stuff, but there's certain things that are sacred. And I want to get to the question I have, because have you ever had someone contact you and later realized that story wasn't true, or they were making it up?
I do verify every story.
Oh, no, I wasn't. No, but I mean
Right.
that you invested your time
Mm-hmm.
into it and then found out, oh, this person's pulling my leg.
No, because I wouldn't. The only time that I would have invested is the time that I spent making sure that confirming that it actually happened. And I do that through police reports or online articles or 911 audio, stuff like that. I haven't had anybody that has really just come out and tried to scam me.
They realize that you're a professional, and they're dealing with somebody that knows the ins and outs of podcasting. But I got sidetracked there a little bit, because when we met on Saturday on Reddit, we exchanged some emails, and you had said about comedy, and then you included your TikTok thing, and you said that you do dad jokes, and I thought, that's got to be the other. But that's got to be the other side, because like you said, a lot of your podcasts are very dark.
Right.
And I think it would be hard. In other words, I think of a TV reporter or something where every day you're reporting on a shooting or a stabbing, or, there's got to be that other side.
The comic relief.
Comic relief is great analogy. They used to be comic relief with Robin Williams and Whoopi Goldberg and Billy Crystal. They used to benefit thing.
That's how I see TikTok as kind of a way that I can do quick. I like silly jokes. So I do those sometimes, but every once in a while I'll put a TikTok up that promotes or talks about the episode, the podcast episode that was just released. One of the things I talked about on there, well, I don't know if you heard about this, but I live in Florida here locally. Someone broke into the police station, and no, they went in and they stole all of the toilets. And craziest thing.
No.
And
the police got nothing to go on.
They have nothing to go on.
Good. Go
ahead. You may have also
got another one you want to try?
There's here in Pasco County, north of where I live, there's a nudist colony. And that's actually true. There is a nudist colony up there. Overnight,
you almost had me on the last one. And you sounds like
no, but that's really true though.
Again.
This is really true. Overnight, someone drilled a hole in the fence, and cops are looking into it.
Boy, look at the time, kids. I got to rearrange. Stop, George. Scott. By the way, since we're off, we've ventured off from the podcast. I will tell you, Walgreens did not accept Tommy Two-Tone 717-867-530-998.
What? They had to.
People right now are going, what in the hell is he talking about?
Right.
You want to tell the people?
The insidest of inside jokes that we're talking right now.
I always try, Scott, to have a little something. Yeah, I happen to see that. For what? Do you want to tell them, or should I tell them?
Yeah, if you go to Walgreens, they have sale prices, and if you want to get the sale price, you got to have their rewards.
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah, you got to put your phone number in. They track what you purchased and all that stuff. I don't like to do any of that. So if you want to get their sale price, but you got to put a phone number in to do it, put in your area code and then the phone number 867-5309, like that old song.
Tommy Two
And
Times.
they're guarantee. Now you're saying it didn't happen. Is that
No,
right?
I was joking you.
Okay. It happens everywhere, no matter.
867-5309, Jenny.
Yeah.
I got
Somebody
your
has
number.
already created that account.
No,
And
you're probably right.
oh, I've done it. I know
Oh, that's
it
wonderful.
really works. Yeah.
Yeah, CVS here and Rite Aid and the pharmacy places, they do that. And you're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Buy one, get one free, but you have to be a member. And
Yep.
I don't like doing that either. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That was funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, getting back to the reason I asked about, because I have a friend of mine who we call him Story Boy, because he starts telling a story, and about 2 minutes into it, you go, wait a second. Like he'll say, well, back when I worked at ESPN. Wait a second, you never worked at ESPN. Even his son one time was like, you never worked at ESPN. When I was at Painter's Mill and Kiss was opening up, because I worked with Cheap Trick. I've worked with a lot of, bands over the years.
Yeah.
Kiss, even I have pictures with Ace and Peter. And,
Hey, the lead singer of Cheap Trick lives right here in my town.
Robin Zander.
Yeah.
Robin and I are buddies. I have a picture. If you go to my Facebook page, Robin and I are buddies. Not only is Robin one of the best singers ever, but he's just a wonderful guy. His son has a record out. Do you know about that?
Didn't know that. No.
His son, and he actually is on the road with Cheap Trick a lot. Yeah, I'm friends with those guys. I've seen Cheap Trick. Oh God, I've seen him probably 40 or 50 times. I actually got to work with him. I did promotion with a record company called Red Ant. And I worked a Cheap Trick record with the Stone Temple Pilots. They went out on the road with Stone Temple Pilots.
Wow, two big names there.
There's some crazy stories.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine. I could probably be on. What was that like?
Well, I'm always looking for new guests. So,
I thought about it. I've had, like, I was in a truck that rolled over when I was a kid. Maybe that explains part of the problem.
It's all clear now. Yeah.
Scott, I can't thank you enough. Is there, besides, the podcast and you obviously you've got whatwasthatlike.com, and you got the TikTok dad thing, dad jokes. Obviously an avid bicyclist. Is there anything else that really, because I'm taken back by people that say, oh, I want to do this. Like you say, do a podcast or want to do videos and stuff. You got to put yourself out there a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And is there anything that you want the people to know that they don't already?
About me, you mean?
Just in general, sure. Things that you're, in other words, do you see, what was that like 5 years from now? Or would you like to be doing a television show, or, because obviously I think you have the skills.
Well, I am going to write a book.
Okay.
Because
there you go.
Ever since I started the podcast, I've documented every single thing I've done to promote it. And I do a bunch of traditional things. I do also a bunch of just out of the box, crazy kind of things. Some of them work. A lot of them worked, actually.
Sure.
And the biggest question among podcasters is, how do I find listeners? How do I grow my show? I want to get a big audience. What do I do? So, and it's well over 100 different things that I've done. So I'm going to put that all into book form. Right. And at some point, just not there yet. Haven't quite gotten around to that yet, but it is a project in the future.
Yeah.
And but I keep busy doing other stuff. I bike now. Prior to biking, I was into ultra marathoning, which is just long races, long foot races.
Okay.
And I also work with the local homeless population.
Wow.
Giving out over 600 bikes to homeless people here in Florida. So I have enough to keep me busy for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I apologize if I'm intruding. I'm so taken back, and I think what you're doing has the potential, as much schlock as on TV these days. Interesting stories with real people is so. In other words, and maybe it's just me personally, but I love Dateline. I love 2020. I love where it's real people and this really happened.
Yeah, true stories. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I can see that. I could see that happening. Yeah, reenactments of
yeah,
a
no.
lot of the different stories.
One other thing about your book, because and I guess, you know, it seems like we're an odd match, but yet when you mentioned about all the promotion you did, that's what I did for a living.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned Cheap Trick and Robin Zander.
Mhm.
I was promoting their record. I was going to radio stations begging them to play, you know, when I worked with ZZ Top or I worked with whoever. So promotion is what I do. And now promoting myself, it feels odd. And like we mentioned Reddit, they don't like any kind of self-promotion, but I
know.
don't know any other way.
Right. You got to be
You
very
know?
careful on Reddit. They will
Reddit,
jump on you.
but you know, I agree with what you said. You can't, if you just start a YouTube channel and put up videos, you're not, I'm sorry, kids, if you're watching this back, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
You have to find your audience. You have to reach
Mhm.
and you have to promote and you have to be out there. Every time I go out locally, I'm in York, Pennsylvania. I go out to the supermarket. I wear my York Comedy Minute shirt. I wear this hat. I tell jokes, you know, and I leave there and I've got 5 new subscribers and hopefully people saying, I met that guy. He's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
what I
that's
think
what
it's all about.
always be promoting for sure. Yeah.
Sure. And that's it. Scott, anything I can do. That's why I was so glad when I mentioned it. And it came to me Saturday night, Friday night, actually, when I got up Saturday. I've been posting because I just started doing these Zoom meetings and I thought, I found podcast on Reddit and there was a thing said looking for a co-host. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to put it in there and see if I can't find somebody that would like to be on. And just kind of like what you're doing, only on a much lighter scale.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it is your Comedy Minute, but it doesn't have to all, because like I said, I just put up 100 episodes of where I'm talking about just some god awful things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people enjoy that. They go, my God, I can't believe that someone, you know, did this or that. Like
You know,
said,
that's how a lot of people find how podcasters or YouTubers find their co-host is from a guest that came on the show. Because
right.
if you're talking to somebody for 20, 30 minutes and you find, wow, we've got a pretty good chemistry going, we going back and forth and it would work, you know, sometimes that turns into a co-host situation.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, I've been looking for help because when I started, not that we want to talk about your Comedy Minute, but that was the idea. Your Comedy Minute, Scott, it's your Comedy Minute. You come on and tell jokes, you know.
Oh, you'd have a guest come on and tell the joke rather than you doing it, you mean?
Yeah, well, I wanted it to be, you know, again, the premise was I do, if you didn't see, I do quickies too. I don't do just minutes. I do your Comedy Minute quickie and I'll do a Halloween joke. Like I did the one about my wife is so ugly, the kids come trick or treat and they give her candy. No,
I don't get no respect, right?
I tell you, it's rough. My wife. I met Rodney Dangerfield.
Really?
Again, I don't want to. No, I really did.
You know, you shouldn't. I just want to mention you shouldn't name drop like that. Tom Hanks told me that one time.
That was good. You are a very funny guy. You really are.
Well, tell my wife. She was, you know, I got to tell you, she was yelling at me. She was saying, my wife was saying, you never listen to me. And I thought, what an odd way to start a conversation.
Yeah. Okay. You went to the well one too many times.
Yeah.
My wife's cooking so bad the flies are chipping in to fix the screen door.
That's good.
No, I really did. And I wasn't name dropping. In other words,
I know.
People, you know, oh, you do other people's jokes. I mean, I met Lewis Black. I had a conversation with George Carlin. I met Rodney Dangerfield, you know, Stephen Wright. I've been doing jokes my whole life. And, you know, I love especially on Reddit where it's the joke police or it's this police. That's not cringe. Oh my God, you know, I'm just trying to, like I said to you in my email, I'm just trying to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And you've done a better job than I did today. You know, I'm trying to be serious. You got me acting so serious.
I don't want to upstage you here.
No,
I mean,
brother.
this is your show, you know. I mean,
you don't have far to go. It's not, you don't have to reach too far. You've already done it. No, I want to keep it for me personally, like I say, starting your Comedy Minute. The idea was I'll get on here, I'll do jokes, and then I'll get people to come on and do jokes, and then I realized that people can just get on YouTube and do their own jokes. They don't need me to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where, and the other part of that, maybe too, you've had people, which you draw back to you, where they say, yeah, I'll do it. And then when it comes down to brass tacks, you know what, Scott, I don't want to do that story. The more I think about it, I don't want to share that with people.
Yeah.
Have you had that happen?
Yeah. I've had not that they've changed their mind, but sometimes I'll contact someone and it's just, they just can't talk about it. It's too traumatic. They just, maybe they just went through it and they need more time to get further away from it. But yeah, not everybody can talk about trauma that they've gone through.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, like I said, the real twist for me was you run some very, not all of them, but, a lot of them are dark and very serious subject matter. And then there's this other guy that does jokes and TikTok. I'm going to spend more time. I don't have TikTok and I don't do TikTok, but I want to spend some more of your time and steal your jokes.
Yeah. You're welcome to. Hey, you know what?
None
of them are original. So you're stealing from somebody else, not from me. That's
jokes that are, I have joke books. And I love people that say, well, that's not your joke. God, most of the jokes out there aren't any, they were written, 60 years, because I go back to Johnny Carson and Henny Youngman and, the old style comedy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. And, I did one of these with a young man. He said, Scotty T, you need to do more, tricks and trinkets. And, no, I don't do that. I don't do, TikTok gags and jumping around. It's just not me. I think I'm too old for that. But anyway, Scott, I can't thank you enough. We're going to run out of time here in a little bit. Is there anything else that, your latest episode, now you're doing this thing with Secret Room. You plan on doing more of that with other podcasters?
Oh, I've done that. That's, I think, the third time I've done that.
Okay.
I do promo trades, like one podcast host will promote, like do a little short 30-second ad for a show, and you trade promos like that. I do that all the time. But full episode swaps, you got to be really, really picky about that, because
I was going to say,
you're putting a whole episode in front of your audience that they weren't expecting. So you got to make sure it's something they really will like. And with this other show, The Secret Room, it's very similar to mine. And so we have a lot of crossover promotion opportunities. So
it just reminded me of that. Is it Netflix or which one that has the Steve Martin Short and
Murders in the Building?
Yeah, because that's very popular, and I think that whole genre of mysteries and which ties into what you're doing. I think it's interesting. It's also interesting to me that you already have enough in the can through the first of the year. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I try to have that margin. I don't want to be recording and having to publish the next day, because there's too much time that goes into it. I just wouldn't have time. So that would be really stressful.
I'm doing this. I have a couple in the can. I just did one with Pirate Stew, and boy, talk about Pirate Stew from Alabama. Scott Johnson versus in Florida.
You're giving some variety to your audience, right?
Yeah, like I said, I just think you do you and I'll do me, and again, I can't thank you enough, and I hope that the people that enjoy your podcast might enjoy looking at just the mix.
Yeah, people like a variety, so
sure.
I'm
going to continue to champion, because I believe in that wholeheartedly, helping one another out. I will, obviously when this airs, I'll put all the links that I can. I post on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I will do that, just because.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
No, it's important. It's important to help one another out and believe in that, and I'll end with this real quick. I said about putting links. Google contacted me over the weekend about my channel losing something, and they took away my links, my ability to put links in my videos.
Oh.
And they asked me to send a picture, which I was very hesitant to do, with my phone of my license, and I did it, and it came back and said it wasn't valid. And they said, try one more time. And I did it again, and it didn't work again. So
And
now
there's
I
nobody
can't
to
try for
complain
another.
to.
I can't try for another 30 days.
Yeah.
And this morning they asked me what I thought of that whole process.
Oh, I bet you told them. Yeah, I lost my first Instagram channel the same way. You know, they took it down. You violated a rule. We can't tell you what rule it is, and there's
Yeah.
nobody you can complain to, but
Yeah.
you did it wrong, so you lose it.
I've been kicked off Facebook like 9 times in 1 year.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing. I had a Your Comedy Minute channel, and the whole channel was removed. I had 6 million, you know, just devastating.
That's the danger of being dependent on somebody else's platform for your content.
Right.
Because it can always be taken away if they on a
I'm
whim.
Scott, let me stop the recording, and
Okay.
thank you for being on.
Sure.
Let me stop the recording, but hang in there for a second because I want to say goodbye to you. We only got about a minute and a half.
Yep.
Okay?